I want to know your true opinion.
Okay.
How long before you buy an electric car, or will you never?
Ooh, no, I'm in. I'm all in. So I don't know if we'll do it this time. And the reason I don't know if we'll do it this time, so we have a hybrid. We went hybrid earlier than most, and the reason we did is because we believe in doing better with our environment. Now, is a hybrid initially better? I think there's a lot of data that says it is. Is an electric vehicle better for the environment? I think there's a lot of data that says that it is. There's people that will have an argument. There's people that could blow up the comment section and say, you're not considering this. I'm considering battery production. I'm considering coal power. I'm considering all the things. I think there's plenty of data out there that says it is better for the environment.
But even if you go on a micro level, like whether or not that you should buy an electric car, if you literally are only driving from A to B all the time, imagine the amount of money that you would save if you eliminated the gas station stop.
Yes, and even just the headache.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a person that goes in and gets a drink or goes in and buys a chew or buys anything. Like, I'm not going into a gas station. I go to the pump and I do it. And luckily, I've got a gas station near my house that I can do on the way. But if I'm at work, I have to go quite a ways out of my way to go to the gas station and then start my route back out. And that goes away too.
Right.
So that's something that would be wonderful. The grid can handle it, especially in my area. And even better is when solar is a thing and I'm just charging my car off of the sun. Like, I think the world is going the direction where that makes more sense faster than many people like to believe.
It's getting propped up quite a bit, though. I mean,
absolutely.
It really is. The only thing that I wish out of the evolution would be is when we flew to the moon, it was a government non-stop investment in that type of technology. You got there, you experienced so many things, you developed so many new products because of that invention, and it would be nice to see some format of that occur to where the bear wasn't on the market. The bear wasn't on the average consumer. It wasn't a slight little, hey, we'll give you $7,000 back if you buy this Tesla. We'll do this for you if you do this. But you're also going to have a whole bunch of other expenses to make this a reality in your house.
Right.
You're also going to have to take the plunge on a whole lot of things that is very inconvenient for you. Rather than plug in the system and just really creating a mass amount of innovation to make it actually cheaper, actually better, actually more affordable. Mm-hmm. When will that happen? That's what I would really like to see. And unfortunately, you're getting more of and I don't think the government needs to do it. I almost would be more pro for the private sector to actually be able to afford to do that. But, Elon's doing his best at it. But, if you're looking at an $80,000 car, that's pretty tough to compete when you're going to add more and more expenses on it. I would have liked to even seen a vehicle for the average one-person driver. Yeah. Where is just the one-seater, the one kind of a vehicle that the price point's $16,000? It turns into almost like a golf cart expense.
Or even just like a motorcycle. Give me an electric motorcycle. Now, I'm not promoting motorcycles. Sorry, everyone that likes motorcycles. I'm not a fan of them. But it is the same concept. It's a single-person vehicle, has a very, very small engine, able to do all kinds of things.
How much would that market explode if it was a $17,000 investment?
I think it would. So the proof and concept, and this might be the vehicle I go for to bring it full circle, is the Maverick. So the Maverick comes in, it's the Ford Maverick. It is the small compact truck, and its standard drivetrain is a hybrid. It comes into the market as an option for a hybrid vehicle, and the biggest pusher is it's a $20,000 initial price point. Now, most people are getting higher than that when they buy the things.
Let's be honest. 20 plus 15, so it's maybe a $35,000 vehicle.
I think that's not I think you have to go out of your mind to get it that high. I think I built one just to get an idea of what I'd be trying to set aside, and we're looking at, I think it was like 28. So after building what I wanted, it was still under $30,000. So the reason I bring that up is it's kind of a proof of concept that cheaper vehicles that perform to whatever end that a person wants to accomplish they have a place in the market because we haven't seen incomes go up in a while. We have an entire group of people that is a little bit hesitant to buy big SUVs. Now they're getting there because now they're all getting kids and stuff. But the millennial market and the Zoomer market that is getting older, they're not looking to buy these massive gas guzzling vehicles like, when we were kids, like that was a norm. But for a large percentage of them, they're also trying to decide, do I get a house or do I rent? Do I get a, there's a lot of questions being asked in this generation that weren't really asked before. They were just assumed to be norms. So I think, yes, I think when the electric vehicle becomes cheap enough that anybody can just opt into it, and the infrastructure will continue to be building as people, like I think they had 1 million, it was like 2 years ago, was the first time there was more than 1 million electric cars on the road. Like when those numbers become normative, the infrastructure has to improve. Now, to your question before, like, is this something that, is this something we moonshot? Is it something like, I think those kinds of things would expedite the process. I think it's already happening. And here's the problem. Tesla, for instance, is putting in these massive charging stations across the country. It's a really good move because they're basically saying this is the infrastructure, which is a good idea because it's your property. But it's kind of the same problem that you run into when you run into Mac versus Android versus all these things. When you've got silos of property saying this is how we're going to charge our phones, well, now you've got kind of two infrastructures getting built across the nation, and now you got to decide which place am I going to go to a gas station for. Now, good gas stations will offer both ones, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
If instead there's like, this is how, as the American government, we are going to fund, and this is how we will charge. If they can get the best version of it right now, it will create a place where there's at least a direction that everyone can be on the same page.
Well, then it gives someone all the clout. I mean, I've read before Elon Musk is everything's open source. So
Yes.
He's given you the ability to use his chargers. He's given you the ability to use all the innovations. It's just a matter of if the other car companies want to play along and make him look like the head honcho.
Right. He's playing a game not so much of monetary kickback, but like clout. It's like I'm the game changer.
I'm developing and I would think, on a side note, if anybody has never seen the series The Men Who Built America, I would highly recommend it because, you would stand to say that possibly Elon Musk might be in that type of an area if he truly successfully brings in electric cars throughout the nation and builds the infrastructure. When you talk about the steel industry back in the day when they built the whole entire railroad, that was all from the private sector.
Well,
of course, are they getting subsidized, I'm sure, with taxes and things, but
they did a weird thing too, like exactly what you're talking about. They had to decide what gauge rail, what distance they were, because everyone had different plans, and so someone had to be the winner.
Yeah. And who had the most money normally is how that works.
Kind of.
But I think of that with Elon a lot is if you're going to stick him in that category, which is very possible, if you end up truly building that infrastructure, the difference I see is it seems as though, and I could be wrong, in the comments or whatever, let me know. Maybe you'll prove me wrong. But in my opinion, it's not quite a final product. You're kind of running with him.
Mm-hmm.
While the steel industry and we're going to build a railroad from the east to the west coast, and we're going to do it all on our own, and then you can utilize it when we're done with the final product. And instead, you're kind of getting something that truly is too expensive for the average consumer if you didn't have a rebate. You're getting something that's not all the way always figured out, and I completely understand. I mean, it's a crazy innovation to build a vehicle, and I've listened to him talk several times about how they're more or less engineering every component, because whether it be trade agreements with other manufacturers that manufacturers have, from ground zero, won't actually build those types of parts. There's just a lot of elements and hurdles that he's had to jump over, but you understand what I mean. Like
you're funding those hurdles.
JP Morgan and the Tesla era, not even Tesla Auto, but when they started building the grids in cities, do you think that they were going to people's doors and asking them what they thought about? Would you want to help us with this innovation? No, they built a grid. They built a grid and said, here,
plug in,
pay us the money for the grid we built. So I would like to see that technology farther along. And in essence, it's kind of interesting too, because it parallels almost more of what you wish was occurring, as it seems as though Amazon was completely subsidized by the market. The market gave them tons of money to build warehouse after warehouse after warehouse to have 2-day shipping throughout the nation. And they didn't turn a profit for, I don't know what it was, 5, 8 years. I don't even know if they still are paying dividends and all those types of things. I may be wrong on my exact time frame, but they were unprofitable for a lot of years. And all they were doing was dumping money back into infrastructure and money that the company wasn't even cash flowing. They were bringing money from the market because everyone was like, oh, this is going to be great.
Right.
Reward this company, reward this company. Don't get me wrong, Tesla's through the roof on their stock value. And maybe we'll see that over time as well. You're going to see those charging stations every single place in the United States. And maybe I'm speaking too soon. Maybe you'll see it in 10 years. You'll look back and it'll seem like it just happened all at once. You know, what do you think? Do you think that you're in the middle of the evolution? Of course you are, but do you think there will be a complete process made that we're not seeing yet? Because going to a charging station and waiting 35 minutes, I think will be that will either break be the straw that broke the camel's back, or they should make it more of a personal driving vehicle that you charge at night and you never have to charge anywhere. You know what I mean? Like I see that purpose for a vehicle like that.
Yeah, I think so. One, I think a lot of people tend to make our decisions, me included, on the extreme version of whatever it is that I could foresee myself doing, instead of the likelihood of what I'm doing. So Tesla's pretty far ahead of the game in that they have really good battery life, and I think that's a game changer. When your battery continues to be good years down the run, then you're going to be the reliable company. And so we'll just stick with them because I see them maintaining their reliability. So that said, you've got a company who is building a quality product that you can use for long term. So now I'm thinking of just replacing my current vehicle with that vehicle. So then I go through all of the things that I ever do with my current vehicle. Okay, well, most of the time I drive, to and from work, and then I can just push that aside because the electric vehicle can do that. So then I go to the next weird one, and I go, well, sometimes I would like to have something where I can haul something or like carry loads of groceries that are bigger than a car, or carry my bike on maybe I would like a truck. There's a couple of electric trucks, but they're getting expensive. Okay, I might not do that then. Well, how many times am I really doing that? Super small. All right, well, then I think about the other one. Well, every year we go down to Florida, and we've been driving the last while. And so since I'm driving to Florida, I have to change the entire way I drive there because I have to charge on the way there now. Now, I think there is a route pretty easily. It's probably along the same route that we would take anyway, that I can do that and hit the charging stations and charge just fine. But I have to do a 35-minute stop every 300 miles or so to do something like that. Well, with a wife and kids and people who likes to get out and stretch and doing those kinds of things anyway, I'm probably already taking almost that length of time of a stop. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I have to push it a couple extra minutes, but that's happening anyway. All that to say, I find that even in my own search for will I go electric, is it the time in the market to do something like that? For me, the thing that stops it is the current price point on the vehicle. If a Tesla is the standard that I want to make my judgment by, it's still a little bit too expensive for me to do what it is that I want to do with it.
Now, there's cheaper options, but
there are.
Are you saying that Tesla is the only choice?
Yeah, I'm trying to limit the other options just a place to make an argument. And the reason I say that is because all of those things the Tesla can still do. But I'm trying to get done everything I do with my current vehicle, and that's kind of stupid. And here's why I say that. We have two vehicles. My wife has one that she drives to work. I have one that I drive to work. My wife drives a car. I drive an SUV. We tend to drive the SUV a little bit more in the winter. When we get bad roads and things, the four-wheel drive helps out a lot. We don't need to. Most of the time, front-wheel drive does great in winter. And if it's really bad out, then just don't go out. And we say, I'm calling it in. I'm gonna be sick today. Something to that effect. That's a one time a year. We'll go crazy and call it 5 times a year where we live. I'm making a decision on a car that will be there 98% of the other time doing amazing things, and I'm judging it by the 2% of time where it could be iffy. And even it's iffy. It's not even like this won't work. It's iffy.
If it's front wheel drive, it probably does fine.
It's
anyway.
probably going to be fine.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at. If the price point is a place where I can stomach the upfront cost, and I know that it, when you do all the math, especially for someone like me that keeps a car for a long time, that's going to be something that ends up being very doable for a long-term investment, and it's a good idea. So to answer your question after I've gone all the way around the bush 10 times, I do think that if you make the decision based on 95, 98, almost 100% of your driving instances, which is to and from work, the electric vehicle makes absolute sense. I'm charging it at home. I never have to worry about the infrastructure that people are building. And I never have to worry about, rapid charging stations. I never have to worry about all of these other things. For me personally, and probably most people out there, 95 to 99% of my driving, it's taken care of.
I mean, you make a really good point, and unfortunately, I don't know what you could do about that, because when you think about it, that is in essence a true problem with it. Like, if you go all in on electric and that 2%, it's almost like a conservative approach. You're like, ooh, but what about the 2?
Right.
Am I screwed?
And everyone gets so worried about the 2.
Yeah. And really, it probably does do most everything. But let me ask you a specific question, specific answer.
Okay.
You have an innovative guy. His name's Elon Musk. He builds amazing cars, and you know that he's working his tail off to make them better and better. Not taking away from any other manufacturer that's making electric vehicles, but he is by far, by principle, the driver in the seat making this world go round. Would you buy anything other than a Tesla?
Yes.
You would.
And
it doesn't do anything for you in that regard.
No, it absolutely does do things for me in that regard. But as we said, my norm right now, my need right now is actually much lower than the need of most Tesla vehicles. Tesla vehicles are expensive. They're very expensive.
So you think it's just price point?
For me, it absolutely is. And that's just a cash flow scenario for me. But if Elon Musk decides I'm tapping into that exact same market that the Maverick showed exists, and I'm going to make a $20,000.
They have an electric truck. It's going to be cheap, I hear. I think it's going to be like 100 G's or something.
And it's
crazy,
going to be ugly as sin. No offense, none taken. That thing's gross.
It's interesting. I don't know. Sometimes I think I like it, and sometimes I think it looks less like a futuristic vehicle and more like that's kind of weird.
To me, it looks more like if you were in the 1980s, this is what a futuristic vehicle looks like.
That's a pretty good one, yeah.
Yeah, and here we are in the future of the 1980s going, that thing looks dumb.
Yeah, it's
now,
true. It's interesting.
There's a lot of people that really like it. There's a lot of, I've got a friend that thinks...
uniqueness.
Right. It's so gross.
But so you don't think... take the bucks, support the driver. That's not your thing. It's more about personal whatever. And I just say that, no offense taken, I think everyone should be worried more about their personal everything. I think for sure you should be thinking about that before anything else. I was just curious your point of view.
No,
if there was similar price, let me actually be a little more specific. If a Tesla and another car, basically same features, say they equally look unique, but about the same cost, what do you pick?
Hands down Tesla. For me, and I have not done enough research to really they might be right now. We're about to release a $20,000 Tesla as starting price. I don't know it, or it already released, and I'm sitting here in absolute ignorance. That could exist, in which case I go, well, maybe I should go for that. But for the most part, I don't know of it right now. I think...
most of the low-end stuff, everyone does the marketing approach where they make it look ridiculous. It's just not as good of a looking vehicle.
Right, so you're going to upgrade because you don't want the dumb-looking... You don't want the dumb-looking Tesla, but you can get a Model 3, which looks much better. Just get the Model 3. It's a little bit more expensive. So yeah, if the question is asked, if two things are relatively similar, and we'll even say the other one is a little bit more, we'll say I have to pay another $50 to $100 a month to support Tesla. In my head, I think the Tesla product is a better product. He is the innovator. He is pushing for innovation, not just for innovation's sake, but for the betterment of the actual product being built. And he's also, we haven't even gotten into all the futuring things that he's already put in place in his vehicle. We're not talking about vehicles that'll drive themselves, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I'm going to sleep on my way to work and let that thing drive me to work.
You better believe it. I mean, really, you think about most people. If you were in a self-driving car, I give it 2 times where you're like, oh, I don't know. I guarantee you're sleeping the third.
Here's the reason that's okay. You sit in the car in college with one of your friends and they're terrible drivers. You should be afraid.
Was just on a Colorado trip. herky jerky. I
Yeah.
was slightly terrified.
But here I am on day 3 and I'm a little tired. I'm already sleeping in the back seat. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do anything more sitting in the car with somebody else driving who's a bad driver than I can sitting in the car with a robot driver who, across a lot of things, can be proven to be a better driver.
I just don't know that we're anywhere close to it. I really don't.
Not yet.
Could you imagine just sitting in there and fully trusting a vehicle, other than the fact that when you wake up, right now, I probably should have fell asleep.
Right. Like right now you have that puckering panic.
That was maybe not so good. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. But how would you not? If you're on a highway, Kansas City to St. Louis, Highway 70, there's not a chance that I'm not browsing the interwebs. There is not a chance I'm not watching a flick. That is a straight drive. You could do it to Kansas. I mean, there's so many states in the Midwest where there is, I would think, little risk of a disaster.
Low risk for sure. But even then, like, he is using the current platforms that he's doing and taking all the measurements that are currently happening and using the platforms that are out there. We're supplementing his map building software. He is building maps of the world right now using the vehicle's cameras that are currently already in place.
And I believe that's open source as well, is it not?
I don't know. I can't speak to that. But what he is doing,
self-driving mechanism, I guess.
Could
maybe
be.
Someone give us a comment. I don't know if it is or isn't.
But what he is doing, and I think that's the so if you bought a Tesla, you are supporting that element of it. Like, he has already stated, I'm going all electric. I am going robot driving. I'm going all of those things. And so buying him, you're also supporting that vision. And in some ways, that's a good thing, because what he's proven with his current vehicle lot is once we get the software hammered out, we'll just upload it to your current vehicle and you've got a self-driving vehicle. And that's another futuring technology that you're not going to get out of the Leaf, and you're not going to get out of the Volt, and I'm thinking of the lower end in my price point area. You're not going to get those things out of those vehicles because they're not built to have that platform ready.
One of the things that I think is kind of crazy about this concept, though, is as soon as you develop self-driving cars is the moment you don't need a cool car anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going minivan all the way, and I want my seat to turn all the way around.
Yeah, but think about that though. Really though, I mean, if you honestly looked at that and you say, okay, so we're developing all these cars that are kind of hipper, they're kind of cooler. People love to drive them. They're almost like sports cars. And then you say, well, you could sleep, and you're going to need a bigger vehicle. It's going to self-drive. You want to go to Florida? You want to wake up on the beach on Saturday? Sure, I would. Yeah, so you go on a Florida trip once a weekend, once a month. You guys head
I want
out
a bed
there for
with
4
wheels.
days.
That's what I want.
That's what I mean. So it's kind of interesting that the evolution of the vehicle, as much as you're going to try to help everyone have their self-driving car, go to work, and fit the mold of what really exists, man, you make that self-driving car thing happen. Scrap all of the innovation, make a monster bedridden car with a large big screen TV in the background. Let the kids play some video games, read some books, we'll all hang out, have a nice little family dinner. Completely different vehicle.
Yeah. But I think right now, since where we are, that doesn't exist, and I'm trying to buy a car, this year, I'm probably going to stay in the hybrid. I might push towards electric if it makes sense. I'm inspired. I gotta go look at it.
This conversation actually makes me look. My wife's looking at getting a third row seat for more kids, but I might be on board of how about we just skip the third row and maybe we'll check out some electric vehicles? I don't know.
It gives an option.
As long as they're given that $8,000, $10,000, $7,000 deal that I think is still based on your income, so not everybody gets it, and I don't really know what all the rules are and things, but if you just got A to B driving, it would definitely be sufficient, but I'm probably still trying to take a nap in that bad boy. I'm just saying. Do you do it with kids?
No, you can't do it with kids.
That's what I mean.
You can't do it with kids. I might do it with kids, but you can't do it with kids.
I don't know how long that'll be. It's kind of crazy. Would you feel more comfortable if it was like a robot sitting in the driver's seat, pretending that it was someone?
Yeah, you're saying I've got a machine with hands on the wheel that I can yell at.
He's got a hat, captain's chair. He has a badge. Obviously,
gonna have to have a badge.
Has a badge, and he's up there driving. You're like, Fred, come on, man. We got to get there.
I mean, I know better. I know that that's a bad idea because it's taking up space. But man, it gives me someone to yell at when he swerves a little.
Yeah, but would it make people feel more relaxed? You can't tell me it wouldn't.
I think it would, especially if you gave him just that. You remember the movie Big Hero 6, and you got Baymax, this big pillowy looking robot?
Oh, yeah.
You put Baymax in the seat next to me, I'm feeling warm. Like, I feel like he's going to get me where I need to be.
Something where it's always like a slow turn to you when you say something, and then like this big, not a smile too
Not
early.
creepy.
You
You don't want the...
Yeah, and then he just turns to you and like he just wants to help you out. What do you need? And he's not driving because he's obviously not there anyway.
Yeah, take me to work, Baymax.
You got it. Gives you the little wink. It would be all right.
I'd be in. In fact, all he needs is one arm to shoot me the pistol. Like you got it, buddy. And then I don't even know if that needs to go into the...
Well, that's not driving anyway.
Yeah.
What would be your ideal car, front end to back end? What would you want if it was self-driving? Picture like the full innovation of it. How do you see the design other than the first thing that pops in my mind? 1970s shaggin' wagon, bench seats on both sides, big TV. I mean, is that the end design for people?
Yeah, if we want to go down the let's go there. Let's go down the route. If self-driving vehicles become a thing, electric vehicles become a thing. That part's not terribly important to this, but the self-driving part is. I don't own a car anymore. I'm done.
Sure, self-driving car. So what is your vehicle? What does it look like?
No, I'm saying I don't own one anymore. I order a vehicle because Tesla is already working on this. They've actually said that they are. And it is a system where somebody owns a Tesla and they send their Tesla out to you.
You mean the ride sharing thing?
The fleet of ride sharing vehicles. I would absolutely sign up for that, especially for things like we would probably be a one vehicle family, maybe a non-vehicle family. Because once that fleet exists, I'm going to order up the sleeper, which is a vehicle where I can lay down and rest. I can do the whole camper thing, and as long as I'm restrained, we can play board games in the middle of it while we drive to Florida. I can order the thing for overnight. I mean, when all of a sudden you sit there and you say, I have 10 hours of sleep that I'm probably going to do tonight, where can I go for 10 hours? Your expanse of wake up in the morning and be there, that's amazing. That's a game changer.
Think about the travel that you would have. When I picture a vehicle like this, I think somehow you're having sideways beds. You know what I mean?
It's a minivan.
You basically are, whatever your family is, you need a cot, you need a bed of some kind. Maybe the whole thing's even a bed. Who knows? But if you could set it up to where it'd be a camper feel, I don't even know that you got to go much farther than that. If camper sales would go through the absolute roof, pair up with Tesla. Here you go. Everyone's taking a cruise. But I see what you mean. I don't know that you would need a personal vehicle if you had some kind of maybe you would need a tow rig of some kind.
Maybe
but then
you could probably get that too.
Yeah.
So here's the reason why I think that's a big deal. In the Midwest specifically, I think there's a lot of places around America where you can get, public transit at a much better cost and a much better, it goes where I want it to go. But in the Midwest, it's just we don't have that kind of infrastructure built very well in most cities, especially not small towns. So when this thing rolls out, it makes public transit available everywhere.
You could buy 3 cars in a smaller city and the city pays for them and said, hey, are we cool with this? Sure. You haven't fixed any potholes. You might as well buy a couple cars. You know what I mean?
Right. So now that, now you've got an infrastructure completely designed around self-driving vehicles, and now public transit is 100% done. I pull out my phone. I say I want to go to the store. It comes out, takes me to the store. I go inside. I say I'm ready to go home and I need one with a trunk. I come in, I throw all my stuff in there. It takes me home, and I don't need to store that in a vehicle anymore. The best part is, you've recaptured your garage space. The Midwest, every house has a garage, most of the time two car at least. All of that home living goes back to the buyer. I don't have to house a car anymore.
Yeah, wouldn't that be kind of crazy when you think about every home in America, that if an infrastructure got built like that, now you have a different thought process. It's not only, should we move, should we whatever. It's, hey, we kind of either need a different vehicle or we need more space in our house. Why don't we just sell our cars, use full ride sharing, and we'll finish out our garage, gain another 800 square feet, 600, depends on the size of your deal. We'll turn that into a home office for you, and then we'll put a play area or whatever for the kids over in this area. I mean, there's a lot of square footage in a garage.
And it's always big and open. I have one post, I think, in mine, and I don't know that I would need to if I just reinforce the upper, and then I'd be fine. But I've got one post.
Yeah.
That's a big space for one post right now.
It's kind of crazy. That would change a lot of things.
It does.
I had been thinking when the 2020 whole virus stuff all occurred, I was like, home building, if this continues, home building is going to change dramatically, because not only do you need a home office for one party, you might need 2 offices, and then you need equally 2 silent places for each party to be able to have discussions with customers and whatnot. So you're almost like a basement and an upstairs, or over here, over there. And when you think of it like that, if you were able to redesign your whole garage and add 1,000 square foot to your house,
it's a big deal.
That would be pretty crazy.
Yeah. And
do you keep the garage doors? What if you want a little air?
I think I do keep at least one of the garage doors, because I love going to those, the outdoor bars where you can roll up one of those garage doors and just immediately be a part of the outside. Because we have 2 seasons here where we live that are beautiful seasons.
It's like bugs and sweat.
Well, there's other than the bugs and sweat, but like that's a given. So you just kind of roll with that. But yeah, no, I mean, then you put the magic screen door up and you're good to go. But yeah, I like the outdoors. We open our windows, every spring and every fall.
Like the allergies. You're a fan of them?
Love them. Like,
yeah. The more that they can sniffle, and it brings on to a brighter day,
Bottom line, we are living in a time where we are going to see, like, we haven't come up with anything that Elon Musk hasn't already been like we're not breaking any ground here.
When I heard of his ride sharing concept, and you kind of so badly want 8 years to be here, because quite frankly, it would make an enormous difference in like what house you live in, where you ride, where your travel process, anything. If literally, and for any listeners that don't know what we're talking about, Elon Musk's dream is to basically almost replace Uber and or the other networks. And maybe it's not replace, but it's utilizing that concept straight up with Tesla. So Tesla cars may have a fleet through private sectors, or they may have a fleet through the city. And more or less, you would call rides and use Tesla's network to be able to go to and from, and it's all self-driving cars.
But on top of that, it's even more ingenious than that. He's sitting there deciding that you bought a Tesla car and you drive to work today.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that
And it sits there in the parking lot all day doing nothing. Instead, that Tesla vehicle would monitor how much mileage you need to get back home, and then it would spend all of that other mileage driving other people around and paying your insurance and cost of the vehicle.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it wasn't just that the city private sector would have it. It was the ride sharing was available to every single person. You could allow your car to be in the ride share program.
Right.
And tell you what, do you buy a $60,000, $70,000 sedan if it goes out and hustles all day long? Probably could justify that.
And that's exactly his plan. It's like, now when I ask you to buy this big of a vehicle, I'm actually asking you to buy a $20,000 vehicle that you get the $70,000 bonuses from. Yeah. That's genius. Now at that point, I'm like, well, I'm back in. But yeah, like,
but then you got to use your garage again.
I know, there's so many.
But still, if you didn't have to pay if you weren't actually interested in, maybe that would turn into like real estate. Do you have 3 cars? You can make good money. Do you have 1 car? It might pay for your car payment. So then people would probably have to decide, all right, go get them, buddy. You open up your garage door and your car
And that
leaves.
might only last for a certain amount of time before enough businesses have decided to do it only to where the private consumer's not going to make enough money to offset the purchase.
I would agree. It would be interesting to see where that line would intersect, because quite frankly, the more and more people embraced every single trip they took to take one of these services, you might see such an exponential growth in that amount of rides that you might be a long ways away unless you truly had a large private sector and everyone in your city was buying the Teslas. I mean, imagine the whole kid population. Why do they even need a car?
They don't. And in fact, when you think through the exact problem that most of the millennials are running into and staying out of new vehicle markets, staying out of new home markets, staying out of these big purchases markets because they just didn't make financial sense to them, that's going to trickle down into the next generation even more so, because I don't need one at all, and I can call this thing whenever. I can be drunk and call it, and it's going to be as good a ride as I could ask for. Like I can have whatever I want. Whenever I want, I can have a what do we do right now? The Uber XLs.
Literally, if you turn that on, whole young generation doesn't know how to drive a car.
That's true. Yeah, no,
It's over.
you're absolutely right.
It's over.
We saw that when they removed the manual transmission. Most people don't know how to drive a manual transmission unless somebody in their life taught them early. Like, I don't think my wife knows how to drive it. If she does, it's because someone taught her, I think, after college. Whereas, like, you and I drove manual transmissions when we were kids, like right when we were learning to drive cars. So for us, not a big deal. But for most of the people, like, I don't think my kids will ever know how to drive that. There's no need. There's no car that they can't even get a cheaper car like that anymore.
Could you imagine that never driving though? Never driving. I enjoy driving. You don't drive. You don't like to drive at all.
I like it just fine. But think about all the places that currently, like, there's a lot of things I like that I don't need to do every day.
You know what I hate though? If you didn't have to drive your car, you know what you're gonna do?
Dang it, we're back to flicking through Instagram.
You know what I mean though? Like, your life will be, when you drive your vehicle, you kind of get a little bit of a cool it mode.
Yeah, but
and if you took that from
people
me,
are doing that anyway. People are already doing that while they're driving.
You think?
Heck yeah! Have you not driven down and looked over and seen the person going?
No, I mean, I don't.
Oh, you gotta look around. Look around. You'll see that every day you drive, and it is terrifying.
Well, yeah, I mean, the self-driving car method sure would be a lot better.
Well, not to mention, think about how much it changes, like, your morning routine. If I like sleeping all the way up until I have to be gone, well, I can also do that all the way up until I am gone. Like, I sleep until I arrive.
So you'd be sleeping in your car?
Heck yeah, without hesitation. I'm out.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
No, and then think about the other people. Like, you set up. It doesn't matter what I see or don't see. The car's driving itself. I set up a mirror system because I like doing makeup in the morning, and now I can do makeup on my way to work. And as long as the doesn't happen and I jab myself in the eye with whatever stick I use.
Why are you putting on makeup again?
Listen, I like being fancy.
Okay.
And I don't need judgment for my preferences of fanciness.
I thought you were like a firefighter. Is that like code for?
No. Like, you put on the stuff to make you look tough.
Gotcha. How many more trips do you think you would go on?
Lots. So many more.
Are they day trips? Like, what I mean by that is your vehicle so nice or, cot-like, ooh, so comfy, that hey, we're going to the beach today, we're sleeping in the car, we're going to do the beach tomorrow, and then we're going to drive home?
I think my day trip, like my sphere, right now, I don't like doing day trips that are over like 3 hours-ish. That's my personal, like, I just don't like driving more than 3 hours and then feeling like I'm getting out to do something. Once I get past that, I'm tired, I'm cranky, I'm hungry, all those kind of things start adding up. But that's because I've been trying to stay focused and driving the whole way. I think that bubble expands when all I have to do is come home from work, get everything rolling, get everything packed, throw it in the car, and then sleep to wherever it is I'm going.
Yeah, could you imagine you basically get everybody in the car at 10 o'clock at night, and we're going to wake up and we'll be wherever we're going to be. I'd be going to the beach all the time.
Yeah, the Gulf is immediately, like, now, maybe Florida decides we're gonna foot the bill for this because the entire Midwest is going to come here nightly.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And what's crazy about it too is if that concept truly existed, it would be great. Is your car could drop you off like at the beach and then go park.
Yes.
Like stuff like that.
Yeah, you're no longer playing the game of like got to find a parking spots are completely different. Oh, that's a game changer.
Could you imagine your city infrastructure? All of a sudden, we don't have parking garages everywhere. Maybe the parking garage is 3 miles out of town, and your car leaves and goes and parks in it. You clean up all your cities. It
charges.
You open up all kinds of area in your cities from all these parking garages. That would be pretty okay too.
Well, and even the cities themselves. So we'll say the city itself decides it's going to invest in that, or a company in there decides it's going to invest in that. They create one building that is a massive infrastructure. Like this is the charging block that houses my fleet.
So is the self-driving car the true innovation that makes the electric vehicle actually go? Because you're right, with the charging stations and all those things, that would be the disconnect, rather than me having to park my car, not being charged, of course. But if the car can drop me off and then go get charged, you may not even need to charge anything at home. If it's able to charge at any time you're anywhere and the charging cycle becomes higher, you literally have eliminated all problems. There's no charging stations at home. There's no need to. If you're going to go to work, your car will go get charged. That's what it does.
Well, and also it would have, so like I'm saying, like when I don't have to own my own car and the fleet exists doing its thing, they have a rotating fleet. I have a fleet. Part of my fleet is charging. Part of my fleet is going to network, and part of my fleet is coming home. Like that's what my fleet does. I've got a third of a fleet working all the time.
But even if you had a personal car, it could still be the same thing.
It could very well.
Then a company owns this tower building of charging and parking stations. And at that point, I mean, literally, if you had one within 10 miles, when you go to sleep, your car could drive there and go get charged.
Well, not to mention in one of those kind of scenarios, in that building. So right now, our biggest issue with any of our self-driving vehicles is that there's always the, oh, what's that thing? Or, oh, I can't identify that thing and I'm worried about how to drive around it. Or, oh, that corner is weird and so I don't know how to take that left turn right. That's a lot of the problems with the current self-driving vehicles. You throw it into a sterile environment where there's no surprises. There's no weird things happening. Every car knows where every other car is because it comes in and it's part of the wireless network when it shows up to this hub. We're done. You're not going to have any accidents inside that building. The only thing you have to worry about is the random weird like battery runaway fires. You go up there and you have to take care of a fire. That's going to be about it.
That would be, I'm telling you, man, that we got to call Elon.
We got to get him on the phone.
But you think about the whole change. You're not building, and he probably knows how long it's going to really take to do self-driving cars, but think about how many charging stations. His general model right now is charging stations throughout the United States and all these kinds of things. And maybe that's what he means by that. But if you could run it to where each city was designing like a massive hub to park all the vehicles and it was just lots full of charging stations, it's less innovation. You don't have to find every single house doesn't need to change. You don't have to, I mean, even when you park your car, you don't even need a place to park your car. It drops you off at your house and it goes and gets charged. Mm-hmm. And you call it in and do whatever you want. You mean to tell me you can't flip on Instagram for another 3 minutes till your car shows up?
Right.
I don't know that it's that dire of a deal, but they would just change what needs to be built. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's when you asked the question a while back, like, do you buy a Tesla or do you buy the other one if they're near enough price? Like it's the reason why the Tesla's the better the better purchase right now, because it's already got the technology.
What might actually happen?
You're purchasing the future because the technology that they're putting into the vehicle already supports what is coming.
I'm jacked. We need to get some Teslas.
All right, so we're getting Teslas.
We're getting Teslas.
We thought we were getting a truck, and we thought we were getting a Maverick.
No, I think we're getting electric cars that I probably don't fit in.
Right.
That may be problematic.
Only for a little while.
But it can charge itself and not drive itself either yet.
Yeah.
So maybe not yet.
Future us is going to be so stoked. Future us is going to be happy with what past us decided on, though.
I mean to tell you, though, if you could travel to anywhere you wanted, I don't know that anyone's staying at home on a weekend.
Yeah, does that change your home? Like, from now on, I only need an apartment. I just need a place to sleep at night, and I don't really need to do that because I'm doing that in my car on my way. Maybe at that point, I don't live in the Midwest, even though I work in the Midwest. Oh, man. We're unhinging everything.
That's what I'm saying. You really could do about anything. If you wanted to live around, any kind of vacation style property completely changes. Because say you're in Colorado, you're in the hills, you're at your mountain, whatever. Why don't you normally stay there? I have to go to work in Denver. Well, no, you don't. You sell that Denver house and now you live up in the mountains and it drives you to work every morning. You don't have to worry about it.
And traffic ends up becoming not an issue because you're not running into people because all the cars talk to each other and they stop
Your only goal is to be there on time for work. So the car doesn't have to leave until the car needs to leave. And if the car is going to take 4 hours to get there, then it'll leave when there's 4 hours to get there.
Yeah. Well, and just the bigger part of you have to navigate traffic jams. You have to navigate all of those things currently. Like I'm thinking specifically of Denver because I feel bad for all the Denver people. That city is awful to try and drive through now.
Highway 70 is pretty tough.
Yeah. So you go into that scenario and Highway 70 immediately becomes unclogged. And the reason it does is because nobody's making dumb mistakes and everyone else having to pay for it. Self-driving cars are much less likely, especially in highway scenarios, to get into accidents.
It is kind of interesting though, because you're almost you're set up to be the first mover. I'm traditionally not normally a first mover, but
I'm a second waver.
Yeah, the first mover is buying into this environment of electric vehicles, but the second wave or the third wave of buyers, quite frankly, I don't know that we didn't hit it on the head. I think that the self-driving car element of it is the game changer for everybody, because I think that's a lot of the hurdles now, is trying to charge your car at home the 3% of the time that you need some other version of it. If you're going on a long trip and you don't really want to do the hassle of long charging stops, if you need to pull something, or you need a towing capacity, or all of the like little bitty 3% of the time, you nearly eliminate all of that if the car can go park at a hub. And it can also go make more money when you're not around. And it could also, man, self-driving car sure does answer a whole lot of these questions.
Well, I think the thing that I will say, this conversation has made me at least rethink my initial idea, because I am a person that owns a car for a long, long time. And I still like the idea of a hybrid being that in between. But if I own the car for the next 15 years potentially, which is what my track record is, if I own a car for 15 years, we're going to be within Elon Musk's like window of, I told you this would be here by now.
I don't know that he's hit any of his timelines that accurately just yet, but 15 years. Let's see, what would 15 years be? It's 22 now, so mid 30s, upper 30s, maybe 37. 2040 self-driving cars everywhere.
So I probably have one purchase between now and then. I can get whatever I want still.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, you even think about cell phones. I always think it's funny when people are like, oh, cell phones, think about how fast they've evolved. Yes and no. Internet was the innovation. The cell phone is the internet, a computer screen that's just much smaller. There's tons of new components, tons of innovation that occurred. Don't get me wrong. But it's still playing with the internet. There's not like a dramatic shift. And I would say that a self-driving car, for all the reasons that we've explained, would be a monumental shift in how your home is designed, how space can be utilized in the home, how your car interacts with society. I mean, would you truly even be in love with your car if your car went out and gave rides all day long? I'd be like,
exactly.
No, it's a tool in my toolbox. It goes and makes me money. It's my employee.
Right.
I appreciate the ride. Go get back to work, would you?
Right. I don't care what color you are, whatever was the cheap color. Like, I think potentially that kind of thing divorces the American psyche from their car, which was like a big deal. I think that kind of kicked off in like the 50s, where it's like, I'm a person that is also identified by my car, and my car says something about me. This might be the thing that finally unhinges that.
Tell me every real estate mogul that you have all over your newsfeed every single day isn't talking about how you need a fleet of 100 Teslas. Go buy yourself a lot out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And then they can all go out there and park and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they're going to be doing all these rides throughout the city. So you put their money down, you do this. They got the whiteboards up, standard procedure, showing you what your rate of return can be. 3 cars is not going to make you that profitable. You need 10 cars. When you get 10 cars, you'll start turning a profit. They'll be running all around. Don't ride in your car because you don't need to take a ride in your car. You should hire someone else's car to come pick you up.
So you're saying right now we see the writing on the wall. We have touched the future and come back with a glimpse of it. We just need to buy land just outside of our current city.
All of the land.
And we need to put in, I'm not even saying all of the land. I'm saying we put in the charging stations right, like as soon as it's feasible.
As soon as there's self-driving cars, and I mean as soon as there's self-driving cars, private investors will buy 1,000 of them, and they will plug a whole city, and it'll be like a cab service overnight. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
There will be they will be the first mover for several years, just like buying real estate. Most people are trying to get in and get out within 7 years on a property unless it's like a long-term rental setting. Will be the same thing. How long before they need new batteries? How long before they need new maintenance? They will sell it just before that happens, and it'll be, boom, there's 1,000 vehicles able to give rides instantly.
Well, here's the other thing, and I don't know enough of the specifics on how it would work, but currently every vehicle's drive hours in America is assigned to that vehicle. Like, so if you drive, we'll say, 1 to 2 hours a day, you're just a 2-hour driver a day. Your vehicle is a 1 to 2 hour driver a day, and you're done. And so we have 1 to 2 hours per person, we'll say, across the nation, which means we need that many vehicles. But when it's a scenario where everyone can kind of share vehicles, the only time you really have to worry about that high volume is during the rush hour times. So as a business, if you decide I'm going to alternate my rush hour time so that I can let my people engage into these Uber scenarios, these Tesla scenarios, now all of a sudden I don't need as many vehicles. So you're also reducing builds. You're also reducing the amount needed because everyone doesn't need the same ride.
Well, that's what I was referring to with this would truly be like a monumental shift.
Mm-hmm.
Your house would be designed different. Everything about all of the things would be different. You may not even have a garage, or it's a first wave is different. It's garages, but it's fun. You know, it's exciting. We're renovating our garage. We're turning it into a playroom for our kids. You know, I think that would obviously be the first wave. But if that was 3 or 4 years deep, I believe ground zero new houses would be built completely different. There would be no need for that kind of space.
Yeah, apartments become a much bigger idea because currently the apartment issue is there's not enough parking.
Yeah.
Well, that changes completely when you don't need a car anymore. The apartment makes sense as long as you can soundproof things. And I like the idea of I've always kind of liked the idea of apartments because I like neighbors. As long as they're cool. They could be really crappy neighbors. Don't be a crappy neighbor.
So self-driving cars is going to bring the electric vehicle to the forefront. I believe it. I think it could be.
It could. I mean, you can do the exact same thing. In all honesty, you can do the exact same thing with a gas-powered vehicle. You go to a place, it fuels it up with gas. Like that. That's not difficult to automate.
That is true. Yeah. If it's really the self-driving car element that could change everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't exactly mean it has to be electricity. That's interesting.
Yeah. And in fact, it's probably just as easy, if not more easy. You can create. I mean, think about the things that.
I've got one hiccup with
Okay.
your idea.
Okay.
Well, it's not your idea.
No, it's mine. Go ahead. It's my idea.
The gas-powered cars, the problem would be is if you fully embrace the self-driving car thing and you were going to be traveling or do all those types of things, the problem is an electric car you don't have to have started per se. A gas-powered vehicle, you couldn't be inside of any type of thing where there's mufflers or gases.
That's a good point.
So with the evolution of like the whole deal, you're building a different infrastructure to house all these cars if they're all going to be started and putting all their fumes and all the stuff where they're at. Or if you put in your garage and you want to, say you wanted to go to work in the morning and what if it started too early? And now all of a sudden you're dead because the garage door didn't open. It didn't work right with you. You know, there's just a lot of dire consequences that could occur.
There's a lot of venting and things like that. Like currently, you got to think about every single parking garage that exists right now. They've made this problem work. Even the ones that are subterranean, like they've got air refreshing units, things like that. So it's a problem, but it's not one that they have not.
But if you were going to move towards, you're going to buy something new that is going to be easier, going to be more effective. Everything about it's going to be more positive towards you. Would you personally buy the vehicle that maybe the exhaust wasn't working right and we were parked outside the beach at 3:00 in the morning? We arrived early. The car still started so that we can heat and cool the deal before the next morning. Would you purchase the car that had no fumes or no possibility of having anything go wrong, or the electric vehicle?
No, yeah. The electric vehicle 100% would be the direction I would go. And I'd also just do it because the amount of maintenance is so much lower. Like I have to maintain so many more aspects of a internal combustion engine. Whereas like in the electric vehicle,
you just get to replace one really expensive battery.
Potentially. I mean, potentially. I have no idea. And when things become corporatized instead of personalized, you have a better chance of getting bigger projects to work. And the thing I'm specifically talking about is they talk about like electric vehicles. Your battery, you can recycle like a very like 80s to 90% of the lithium used in an electric vehicle. You can recycle that. We just also tend not to sometimes. And part of the reason we don't is because a personal vehicle getting sent to a place and me having to maintain all that and figure out where I just won't probably nearly as often. But when a company is doing it all and they're like, well, we get massive kickbacks if we recycle all these batteries, no brainer. They're all going to do it. So now we get recycling going up through the roof because it's not contingent on the person remembering how to. It's contingent on me remembering how to, and I save or make money doing so. So of course I'm going to do it because I don't save a couple $100. I save a couple $1 million because I have a fleet, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up today for today's episode. Please like, subscribe, and of course, write a comment if you think that we're geniuses. I'm not sure that we are, but like to hear your opinion and see what you guys think. Thanks a lot for listening to the show today. I'd really appreciate if you'd like the video if you found value in it, and subscribe to the channel, clicking that notification bell so you also receive notifications for future videos that could help you out as well. If you have any questions about the content, leave a comment below and I'll be sure to interact with you as quickly as possible there. I've created a website called kbandstraining.com in 2010. We've been around for a long time with high quality resistance bands and durable equipment. I also have provided nearly 1,100 drills and videos for fitness training and athlete performance for youth athletes. So support my work. If you enjoy the content and you'd like me to continue doing what I'm doing, I would love the support. Thanks a lot for listening.